in the ways of the King's narrative, and we're going to talk you through the experience. So just let me move. Everyone can see my presentation. Haven't got my glasses today. So what we're doing is, as we've done in the last year and the year before that, we take 16 individuals out to senior people out to Central Australia to engage with our First Nations partner, the King's Narrative. This trip is going to happen commences on Sunday, the 5th of May, and concludes on Saturday, the 11th of May. Very, very exciting. I want to say, for those who have been, I know that Steve Fagan's on the line here, it is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see things that we just wouldn't normally see, but also engage and understand some of the things that occur out there and some of the situations that's happening out in, with our First Nations people in Australia. And we're going to go through a process of understanding, working through, and also exploring the rich history of Central Australia. It is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And what we experienced last year, I think there wasn't one period of time where everyone at one point had a tear in their eye and moved them and changed them in ways that, forever change you as an Australian. But what we'll do is I'll just move on to the next slide. We'll give you an overview of what the King's Narrative do. Can I drive this? Oh, sorry. Just bear with us, guys. Can you get that to play?
No.
Okay.
We are a well-oiled team today, guys. Apologies, we're in a different, we're in an office, and so it's just not working.
Okay, so we'll share this this video around, but basically it's an overview of the fantastic work that the King's Narrative does. But without further ado, what I will do is hand over to two very, very special people in terms of Tyson and Jess from the King's Narrative. And before I introduce them, I just want to give you some sort of context of the process that the IMAA has been through. It started several years ago when the IMAA first formed, and we reached out and looked at ways that we can support and get behind First Nations people and how we can really support them. Now, we looked at things such as dialysis machines for Central Australia, supporting communities, painting children's hospitals. We looked at a bunch of things, and it was a gentleman by the name of a leader out there called Paul Ache who engaged us and said, "There's someone I really want you to speak to in terms of Tyson Carmody, who was just starting out the King's Narrative." And the words that there's something special about him that you really kind of need to engage with, and we did. And the work that he will explain that he does out there and Jess does out there is something that is nothing short of absolutely remarkable. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Tyson and Jess to explain the program.
Thanks, Sam. Your head's getting bigger as you speak. So I appreciate that, and yeah, look, it's great to hear that story again of how it all started and the connections that, the opportunities that came up from, meeting Uncle Paul and then, going from there, and it's just flourished, I believe, and we're very appreciative of that opportunity and this partnership and this relationship that we have with IMAA and everybody else involved, but yeah, so I guess a bit about King's Narrative. I've been doing this sort of work for a long time now in schools or child protection agencies or community organisations, and yeah, it was everything really lined up really well. Like I was just wanting to start off and do it in our own way, and it's been a whirlwind since then, and but our primary focus is having a culturally safe space for counselling service for Aboriginal men, where in Alice Springs there just isn't anything available in that way for our men. There are services available, but more often than not, the people working there are not from Alice Springs or not Indigenous, and so there's just our men they speak with their feet and they don't access those services, and we understand the complexities of men in general accessing counselling service and mental health support, and then those barriers are they're even more for our Aboriginal men. So when you come to the language, culture, and everything else that's around all of that. But yeah, so we wanted to have a space where men could come and talk, basically, and now we can't shut them up. Like they're chasing us down the street at Coles and saying, I need help, I need to come, and that's that's really a great thing to see and to have. And we're working really hard to keep up with demand, really, and we've got a strong team now. And initially it was just myself delivering programs, with Jess organising everything from behind the scenes, and she's still doing all of that. But we have a really strong little team there now of men working, and you get to meet them when you come to Alice Springs. You meet the team, and you meet hear some of their stories and their own reasons why they're with King's Narrative, and all of the impact that they've had, in their own families and in their own communities as well. So, but yeah, it's just we're really jumping at opportunities that come our way that we may not necessarily think about or see. It's just we want to take up opportunities, and this opportunity with IMAA has been a great one for us, and not only for us but also for the community, because the support we've received has meant that we could do work that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, and that we've been able to connect with men that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to connect with. So this opportunity is something that's really, really special for us here at King's Narrative with IMAA and with Sam and the team there. So
I guess the purpose of this collaboration, like a lot of the work that King's Narrative focuses on, and initially it was a counselling service for Aboriginal men, but we were set up as a for-profit, for purpose. And there was many reasons why we did that. And in Central Australia, we see a lot of organisations, Aboriginal organisations, that are set up, but everyone in leadership is non-Aboriginal, everyone getting employed is non-Aboriginal, and Aboriginal people, when they are employed, they're making, they're being paid pennies, they're not making any money. And we have this expectation that Aboriginal people are not allowed to own wealth and they're not allowed to make money. But with money comes choice, and it means that, we can actually start buying health, start buying education, and start buying justice. So there's this real push around flipping the norm around Aboriginal people having for-profit, for-purpose social enterprise. And then also it meant that we grew from just doing counselling in the first year, where it was Tyson delivering the programs. In the second year, we had a team of 4 or 5, and it was we've seen over 250 men. We've got 8 service delivery areas now. So we do the cultural immersion, we do the cultural awareness, we do trauma-informed training for Aboriginal people, and then trauma-informed training for non-Aboriginal people working in the sector that can learn how to work with Aboriginal people properly and actually have impact and be aware of their privilege and that power imbalance when they're working with Aboriginal people. We have the barber shop, which everyone got to see the launch of last year, and IMAA was a real big part of that collaboration of making that happen. But it meant that we got to employ Aboriginal young people that had an interest in barbering. We own the only Aboriginal barber shop in town. And when you get here, we should have the barber bus this year, the barber truck. And we've just employed another Aboriginal young fella from community as a barber. So we've got 3 Aboriginal barbers in there now running the programs, and they're going to start training young people next month in their pilot program at a community just an hour from Alice Springs. And our work, when it comes to people like IMAA, this is about the intent, and the intent is for us to come together as Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people and do better for our Aboriginal Australians, and do better in our role, in our space, in our community, and bring awareness around the issues that are actually happening in Australia with First Nations people. And then collaborating in a way where, how do we work together to uplift our people, uplift our men? And how do we also, we've been really loud about this partnership, because how do we demonstrate how it can be done properly? How a partnership with Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people can be done properly, that is authentic, that means that there's an outcome and it is beneficial, and it is not just non-Aboriginal people coming and taking from Aboriginal people, which is what happens most of the time. So, and when you come out to the visit, it's literally just sharing. It's us sharing. It's sharing the realities of living in Central Australia, the realities of being Black in this country, the realities of, the housing crisis, the education crisis, access to services, access to employment, the living conditions. And also this year, we're going to incorporate a trip to Yalara, and you'll get to see the rock, but we'll engage the traditional owners. So we're engaging the traditional owners to do the tour, and we get to go out and meet the artists And we've got Aboriginal artists there that are famous Aboriginal artists. They've got their artwork over the Qantas plains, and they're living in tin sheds in the desert. And there's a real disconnect that people don't get to see in the background. So we wanted to incorporate, this is, yes, there's a focus on King's narrative in the work that we're doing, and we'll always continue to have a focus on that. But how do we start incorporating other, other initiatives, but also other things and other people that are around us in Central Australia, so that you can see that this is not an isolated situation. This is real. This is real for Anangu people. This is real for Western Arunga people. This is real for Luritja people, Warlpiri people. Like, how do we start incorporating that? So you can see that, yes, it's really hard for King's narrative, and what we're doing is different, and it's amazing, and there are challenges, but it's even harder over here, and it's even harder over here. And by investing in us, it means that we can support these more better and more, and we can give them other resources and access to other people as well.
Yeah, and we also put a lot of pride into these partnerships and these trips with IMAA, and because we see it as great opportunities to connect with people that we otherwise would not have others as well, and like yourselves, and when you think about education in the schools, my grandmother MK Turner, who's passed away last year, but she has been in education for a long time, and they just did a review, the MK Turner review in Canberra recently, around education and the importance of language and keeping language in schools and teaching our children language. But she had a quote that said, for so long we've been told to get our kids ready for school, but when are the schools going to get ready for our kids? And so that's how we're approaching these opportunities here. Like, for so long, Australia is saying Aboriginal people need to catch up with us and be with the rest of the community. But when is the rest of Australia going to be ready for us? So these opportunities here are great opportunities to push your limits, push you outside of your comfort zones, and not to be mean or nasty, but there is a stark reality that we need to address and look at. But we want to create a safe space where that respect and honesty and can be built, and that relationship is stronger then, so you will be pushed through the elements, the weather, the dry, the flies, sleeping out under the stars and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's all these elements, but then we want to confront you with things, the reality of Aboriginal people living in our communities that the rest of Australia just don't see or hear of or don't want to see as well, so
and I guess the impact of the work as well that King's Narrative is doing. And we were at the Telstra Business Awards the other week, the other month, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that come up was around impact and the benefit of this organisation for our community. And for us, and you'll get to see this when we're out there, but we don't get to not be Black. We don't get to, take off our black coat at 5 o'clock and go home to our family. Like, everything that you see is why we do our business, but it's also because we live with the reality and we are in this. This is, you're coming to our home. And also the stark reality is that, 42% of suicides in Australia are Aboriginal men. And statistically, we have 5 sons. And if the stats continue, then statistically 2 of our sons will die from suicide. And that's why we do this work. And as a mother of 5 Black sons, that's the reality that I have to live with and work towards every day. And those conversations and that education, not just for my children, but for everyone around my children. How do we do better? And that's why these trips are really important.
Yeah. Yes, Tyson, thank you for just kind of giving a bit of context around the work that you guys do. I think probably the main thing there that also jumped out as a connection, and it's a connection that everyone that's been on the trip previously, it's a connection with land, and it's a connection with you guys that shared. You've got a fan group of everyone that was there, but also a connection with each other. And a bond through a shared experience, which is very, very rare. And this, as we said, I was going to share some photos of last year, but an experience that none of us will ever forget. It truly is a once in a lifetime experience, and this was, some of the mob of the senior delegation of last year. Some of the sunsets, the dinners that we had around it. Steve, I don't know why you're not looking at the camera. There was a lot of talking between each other and just kind of debriefing and understanding. We went out to some special places. This was a watering hole, another 3 hours kind of northwest of Black Tank, where we spend most of the time. Alice Springs, obviously. A lot of time sitting by the fire, and this year we've got 2 nights where we sleep under the stars and sit by the fire. And probably the most important thing is we listen. We listen and we hear. The mornings were absolutely beautiful. This is some of the accommodation that we that we stay at there at the tents. Just experiencing Tom, though, it's such a special place, and it's a place that not many people get to see in the world. This is the row of tents where Beck Colson spent her first night camping. The trauma that she's going through is still quite real. But the morning times, the evening times were times where we can just listen, talk, and understand, and really feel the experience. So this year it's been lifted up again to the next level, and so excited to share with you a bit of a rundown of the trip. Jess knows the itinerary a lot better than myself, so Jess, I might hand over to you to run through the itinerary, if that's okay.
Yeah. So this year we're including a trip to Yalara. And the flights from the main cities that you're coming from can fly straight into Yalara, into where Uluru is. The last flight arrives around 2 o'clock, 2 or 2:30. And then we'll be there to pick you guys up. We're going to start with a lunch, and then we're actually going to go over and meet with the traditional owners and do a tour. We're going to do a sunset dinner that night, and is that the drone? One of the nights of the drone shot, the second night. So we'll do a sunset dinner that night. There'll be lots of yarning, lots of talking about, introducing each other and really setting the scene for the trip. And then Monday we will wake up, have breakfast together, and go and engage with the Arnagul people. And you'll do a tour of the rock. We'll go to the art galleries, which is a little bit out of town. Is actually where one of those art galleries. Well, it's sort of this workshop is set up where the artists actually work from. You'll get to see the artists, see where they work, see their environment, hear from them, and hear their stories. And a lot of that'll be a lot of it is going to be listening. A lot of it is going to be a reality that you would never have expected or never have seen. The stories, some of them are really beautiful, and some of them are really hard. We will have a night we'll get to go visit some homelands as well with one of the traditional owners. We will have a night under the drone show, so that's going to be really exciting. There was a collaboration done there with the artists, and they'll talk to that around how they told that stories, the royalties that are paid out of that, so that they continue to get paid for their stories and their IP, their cultural IP, and it's a beautiful drone show in the sky. The next day on the Tuesday, we'll head back to Alice, and we'll have some lunch in Alice before we head out to Black Tank, where there'll be a welcome ceremony. We'll do some workshops. The workshops are really listening, understanding what we do, meeting our team, meeting our families, exploring allyship. We'll do some bush tucker tasting. You'll get to have some kangaroo and some damper. And we just really want to immerse you as much as possible. So we'll be out at Black Tank for 2 nights. Then you'll come back into town, where we'll have another, we'll come into town, we'll get into town about lunchtime, we'll have lunch, you'll get to check into your hotels, we'll do dinner. And at that dinner, a real bit of a reflection. That's where we go around and sort of go, what have you learned? What do you know now that you didn't know before coming? And where to from here? What is, like us is around, in King's Narrative, we want to know what the action is. When you know better, you do better. So what are your actions moving forward? What do you know that you can contribute to? What are you going to do better in your family, in your workspace? Who have you connected to with this trip that you're going to continue to work with? And then the next day, there's going to be an option. Last year, a few of the participants went out and spent a day with Benji, who's a friend of ours and has an Aboriginal tourist business of his own on his homeland. Yeah, about an hour outside of Alice Springs, going west. So that's an option on the Friday. So people can either fly home on the Friday, or some people can stay and do a day with Benji before flying home on the Saturday.
Absolutely amazing, Jess. Thank you so much for that. We'll send around a document later on today with some of the hyperlinks to some of the places that we'll see. Jess doesn't, humbly doesn't give some of the things that we're going to see justice, because they're things that we just would not see. It is absolutely, the land is, you'll never be more remote in the world than when you're out in this. I know that the night last year I slept under the stars by the campfire, and, the stars, seeing that so bright, was again another experience that will be with me forever. In terms of costs, it is, we estimate about 3,500. Everyone's doing this at cost level. If this was done on a commercial level, it'd probably have a 1 in front of it. So it is a once in a life experience for something that is very, very, very minimal for what's going to happen and what we're going to experience. This may vary depending on where you're coming from. You might want to book your flights yourself. The team's here to support. We're going to send a further document around later on today that you will be able to look at some of the places we're going to in depth and do the hyperlink. But we're really, really excited about it. I know that there is, I think, 12 people who have put their hands up already. There's 16 spaces. So if you are interested, get in, put your hand up after this. We've got to get the balance right. So we're really, really excited about it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Are there any questions whilst we have Jess and Tyson with us? And you might want to ask us separately, so that's okay. Okay, reach out to us if there is. So just want to say thank you to Jess and Tyson for joining us and tuning in. I know how busy you guys are. You're heading down the highway for 16 or 17 hours to get back home. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, members and partners, for tuning in. It's really exciting to talk to them, and we can't wait to welcome you out to Central Australia, where you will absolutely blow your mind. If you've not been there, and even if you have been there, it's something that, as an Australian, I believe everyone should do once in a lifetime. Thank you again, everyone. Just a reminder, Clean Up Australia Day next week, the 18th of March, Quantcast ARN events in both Queensland and in Melbourne, and then WA, we're out there on the 21st. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Tyson. Thank you, Jess. Thank you,
Sam,
board.
Just quickly before we go, sorry.
Yes.
Just want to really invite people too, like when you're coming, we're really interested in your story and who you are and where you come from too. Like we don't want to just be talking about ourselves all the time. Like we love that conversation and those engagements, and it's really important for us to know who you are as well. That helps us and helps build a relationship. And I just really remember those really powerful and impactful conversations we had because of that sharing of stories. And so yeah, please come with your intentions of why you're coming there, with intentions to be there for a reason, but we're having really tough and open, honest conversations, but we're really keen to learn more about who you are as individuals and collectively, and why it is you do what you do and where you do it. So yeah,
I guess the intent of why, when you're coming a long way, especially the group that come last year, you are coming a long way to a very remote region, with people you don't actually know really. But what is the intent? Why is it that you are coming and putting yourselves out there, and what is the intent? And I think that's really important. And I can see Jackie online, which is great, because I'd love to even just hear from her again at some point, like what she got out of it, but also, how it's sort of shaped her moving forward, and how it sort of impacted her thinking, or how she operates, or how she thinks about First Nations people and engaging with First Nations people since the trip, because I think that's the importance of this trip. It's around the intent and the impact moving forward from the experience.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, there's a lot, and most of you guys will know someone who's been on it last year, so just ask them and about their experience, and yeah, it's truly something very, very special. So thank you again, guys, and any questions, reach out. We'll circulate a document later on today, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Enjoy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tyson. Thanks, Jess.